45-year-old human rights lawyer Eric Paulson has devoted much of his time defending victims of constitutional or civil rights violations. From the alleged abuse of police power to deaths in lockups and arbitrary arrests of individuals at public rallies, he has become openly critical of the Barisan Nasional government due to his unhappiness over the state of affairs in the country of late.
Over the last 10 years especially, we have seen the corruption level is at a level that is unseen before. The breakdown of state institutions, the Attorney General's chambers, the police, laws that has been misused to protect the rich and powerful, while politically motivated cases are taken on against the opposition, etc. And of course, you know about this one MDB scandal. Hundreds and hundreds of billions have been lost.
But in the largely rural state of Kedah, some 360 kilometers north from the city centre, the sentiment is somewhat different. Mobile phone salesman Muhammad Amin, for one, is banking on BN to win. Victory for the ruling coalition would mean more financial assistance for him and his family. He feels that UMNO, the linchpin of the Barisan Nasional government, has always been proactive in offering generous assistance to families like him.
Selalunya memang undi UMNO je lah. Yang lain tak pernah lagi ya. Sebab yang tu je. Dari dulu kan kontrol pun memang yang tu je. Selalunya kalau bantuan pun memang depa kan selalu main kan. Selalu bantuan macam di sana pun dulu jalan pun depa yang buat kan. So memang nampak kan itu ya support.
Amin is also not bothered about the various scandals or corruption allegations levelled at UMNO or the government. He views these as nothing more than an effort to sabotage the government and tarnish its reputation.
Sebab kadang-kadang benda macam tu kan, orang kata macam orang boleh sabotaj tau. Dia lebih kurang macam tu lah. So, saya nak percaya ini pun tak boleh, nak percaya ini pun tak boleh. Itu je.
Unlike those living in the urban centres, complicated political issues do not appeal to residents living in the rural areas as much. The older generation in particular tends to be more loyal to those political parties which are able to deliver them tangible and lasting benefits.
We seem to think that rural people are less able to understand the issues and are unaware of the facts. I think for the most part, they choose to not know about what's going on because they feel it does not relate to them and because the most important matter at hand is to be able to survive. So they don't have time for politics, they don't have time for the scandals, they don't have time for the stories. They just want to make sure they have enough food on the table. Overall, I think the older generations will always remember and will always feel that they are indebted to UMNO.
66-year-old Halima Rajab, for example, is not bothered by the financial scandal which has hit Mr. Najib's administration. Until today, she remains loyal to UMNO and the Barisan Nasional government. Issues like 1MDB are just too complicated for her to understand.
For the older generation, it doesn't make a difference. The older folks that I spoke to think it's all fake news, and they don't believe it. The younger generation seem to be more aware, and then it splits into two. They're either fully aware and believe it, and that is why they're dissatisfied, or they are aware but they can't be bothered, and they think it's not relevant to them because no matter what happens, they need to survive, and these things are beyond and above them. and they can go and steal whatever money they like or, shop as much as they want. It doesn't make a difference to their lives, and it's none of their business because their world is such and these people's worlds are somewhere else.
For many ordinary Malaysians, including Muhammad Amin, the rising cost of living remains one of his major concerns. Amin, who earns about 1,000 ringgit each month, says the amount hardly covers his expenses, which include rent, food and other bills.
Harapan saya satu je. Bagi orang kata keutamaan kepada rakyat tu satu. Lepas tu macam kami ni orang yang kerja-kerja swasta ni kan, bagi orang kata kos kami tu, sara hidup kami tu cukup. Kira kami bila hari-hari nak makan ke apa, nak beli apa-apa kan, so kami tak rasa terbeban sangat lah. Macam tu lah.
Dissatisfaction over the rising cost of living and stagnant wages could well be one of the factors which will heavily influence voting decisions. The implementation of the goods and services tax in 2015, which stands at 6% now, is another. The GST has turned out to be a sore point among segments of the Malaysian population. The opposition, led by former Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, is hoping to translate this anger among certain segments of the public into votes in the upcoming polls. Apart from pledging to launch an independent probe into the scandal-ridden state investment vehicle, 1MDB, Pakatan Harapan has also promised to scrap the GST in its first 100 days in office if elected.
Now, Najib has said many times that GST saved the country. GST did not save the country. GST did not save Malaysians. GST only saved him and the federal government. It hurt the people. If not for 1MDB, I doubt there will be GST.
GST and has always been the sort of punching bag and made as a political issue by opposition political parties. But we all know that in the end, they will not dispense of it. That at the end of the day, if they win, they will not get rid of the GST, even though they say they promise to get rid of the GST.
I think the opposition is campaigning in such a way that it's related to the GST, it's related to the cost of living, it's related to the loans or debts that the country is facing.
The main issue other than cost of living and employment, they talk about integrity and they talk about governance, transparency. So I think at present, the government must be able to convince them on the issue of some negative perceptions. They cannot just brush it aside and say there is no negative perception. There are still certain very unhappy issues that they want to be answered.